And now we will be introducing our guest scientist for the evening. And yeah, go ahead and come up, Dr. Richard Socher.
Everybody.
Aloha, everybody.
The background is quite extensive. Definitely makes me feel like I haven't achieved enough with my life yet. Chief scientist at Salesforce. He sold his company MetaMind to them in 2016. And yeah, all of this is nuts. He had a Distinguished Application Paper Award at the International Conference on Machine Learning. Ooh, I want to know more about that. I haven't looked at that yet. 2011 Yahoo Key Scientific Challenges Award, Microsoft Research PhD Fellowship, and he got his PhD from Stanford, working in deep learning with Chris Manning and Andrew Ng, and won the Best Stanford CS PhD Thesis Award. So, have you ever been on stage with comedians before?
Not with comedians, no.
All right, sweet.
Some sort of pseudo-comedians who
Okay.
some jokes, but
Yeah.
We made them
not the real deal.
Cool.
See how you judge
Get our
us after
autographs
this.
later, huh?
You've got that kind of haircut where like people are like, man, that guy must be great at his job, you know?
He can afford to have that kind of haircut.
Yeah,
Just that
exactly.
I think it's only because I'm chief scientist I think I can get away with it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, man.
I feel like I've either surfed with you or I will surf with you at some point in the future.
Kite surf, maybe.
Kite surf, okay, it's good to know.
Or smoke a joint.
Smoke a joint. We're not trying to incriminate him here. He said, not that that's really
No, it's
incriminating.
legal, man.
Yeah.
We can make those jokes now.
Oh my God.
Yeah, dude.
Actually,
Yeah.
I'm an immigrant.
We
I
should
only have a
smoke
green
right
card.
now.
Have
That's
you
the
a green
show.
card.
That's the whole show. You guys just came here to
Yeah,
watch
we're
us
just gonna pass a bowl around and just imagine what artificial intelligence is.
Have you guys heard of you guys are familiar with the Stanford Computer Science Department, yes?
I didn't make it in, so I don't know.
Because, do you guys know who Andrew Ng is? Yeah, see, a good amount of people do.
You all went to
Really?
Stanford? Jesus Christ.
All right, I gotta get out of here.
Yeah. Everyone
You know
here is
what?
14 and went to
I don't think I'm
Stanford.
allowed here. I went to community college.
So he was a chief scientist at Baidu.
That's right.
And he also was your advisor on your thesis. I'm really excited to keep learning about that.
And he read the thesis, and then he was like, I gotta retire. I've been surpassed.
Yeah, I've been surpassed.
Does he have hair like yours? Not even happening, dude.
Nope, he must not be as good at his job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So before we start right away asking you guys the questions that Richard has come up with, let's have you talk about this a little bit. I'm going to list off a few things here. Let's talk about what has been automated or what is in the process of being automated right now. Grocery store checkers have been displaced for almost a decade. Baristas are replaced by Cafe X right now in San Francisco. Drones are scanning fields for weeds. They're being used for war. We have smart tractors, smart homes, smart assistants, and autonomous vehicles, which 1 out of every 10 male jobs in the US is a truck or taxi driver. We have optical character recognition, which is taking over accounting work. Smart contracts are taking over law and notary work. AIs are parsing our genomics and biomarkers. IBM Deep Blue beat the world chess champion. Google bought the British DeepMind, which beat us at Atari games and then made AlphaGo and beat the world Go champion. IBM Watson beat the Jeopardy champion, it analyzes the newest medical records and gives doctors recommendations, and it can even do something as abstract as music right now and make music. We have AI pets, AIs that can rebuild themselves, and AI romantic partners. So that is a long list.
Some of those are real, some of those are a little hypey, but
no-
it is an exciting time.
But no
how did that
IA that
happen?
could tell a joke. Did you hear that? No.
What's that? There's AI that can tell a joke?
No, there isn't. He didn't
There's
list
not.
anything.
Okay,
Yes.
how
We're
close
good.
are we?
We're
Because
good.
Jobs are safe.
Okay.
So
Notice I called
what
it
has happened
IA.
in our life? that is a quarter of a lifetime, basically, that this has happened in this explosion. How has this happened? Where are we going?
So I think there are 3 main reasons of why this is happening now. And they're the data, the hardware, and the algorithms. So we actually have collected, through digitization, enough data now to teach algorithms. Now that's a lot of data, so we had to have much faster computers, largely GPUs, so graphics cards. In fact, graphics cards from NVIDIA are now coming out without a graphics out, as in you can't actually plug anything into the card anymore. They're just there to churn through deep learning algorithms. And then we also tweak the algorithms, and you can't really quite pinpoint and say that's the one eureka moment in some ways of like AI all of a sudden worked. It's really just like a lot of careful research over 2 decades, and each one like improvement might get you maybe 5% higher accuracy, but that makes it go from like 50% where it's not really useful to like 90 where people can actually use it.
Data.
Yeah, totally. That makes a lot of sense. Now, there's been a lot of...
I'm glad.
Let's see if you can speak at his level.
There's been, a lot of jargon that's been thrown around, and I'm sure that a lot of people aren't as up to speed on this as we are. So, like, just for the people who don't know, what is an AI?
I said IA. So,
Yeah.
my bad.
I asked Alexa earlier, and she didn't really give me a good answer.
So that will actually be one of the first questions,
And
which you don't know.
Those data, hardware, and algorithms
That's right.
is what has caused this insane explosion. I love it. We're about to dive into it. Are you guys ready for our first questions?
Let's do this.
Yeah.
All
Yeah?
right. Let's learn
All right,
some
say Eureka on 3.
AI.
1, 2, 3. Eureka!
right.
All right, let's
Here
do
we
it.
go.
Let's go through it.
Want to read that off, Richard?
Yeah.
Sure. So name 3 types of intelligence.
Oh, boy. Is it referring to the 3 comedians here? Boom.
Emotional.
Artificial.
Emotional.
You guys both have your thumbs.
Real.
And
Organic.
Real as fuck.
Real as fuck, yeah.
Really, F. Okay, name 3 types of human, like, way we would describe human intelligence. How would you actually
not so
say?
good.
Okay.
3 types of human intelligence? Emotional.
Emotional. All right, there you go.
I just said that.
Math.
Yeah.
Coloring.
Intelligence.
And-
English.
English language intelligence.
Yep.
It's pretty
Okay.
good for.
Boom.
Pretty good. Did you get them all?
Got them all.
All right,
Audience.
nailed it. All right, you're done.
All right.
All right, let's go to the audience. See if anyone here has.
Who
can
wants
name
to earn
3.
a Eureka prize? All right.
You did give some of them away.
All right, we have an
did.
answer.
Name ones that haven't been named.
Physical, like motor skills intelligence.
That's 1. Can you give 2 more? Use that.
Use that Stanford degree. Come on.
Yeah, use that.
I did not understand the prompt.
Did I really get real ones?
You got real ones. Emotional intelligence.
Just repeat.
Emotional,
Trying to rip.
emotional.
Even though I said it
and,
first, so you kind of mansplained my
nuh-uh.
answer.
spatial, like directional intelligence.
Yeah. Visual. Yes, let's give it a
Give it to
Eureka.
him. Eureka! Come on up. Come on up. So yes, there are many types of intelligence, and we're going to learn about them shortly. This is San Francisco, so the only type of intelligence we care about is our dog's IQ. And this is test your dog. Do you have a dog?
No.
Get the hell out of here. Why are you even in this city? Do you have friends who have dogs?
How'd you get in the city
Yes,
without a dog?
Isn't it a good feeling when you're at the dog park and you say, hey, my dog is clearly smarter than your stupid dog? That's right. You want to read a little bit from this book? Why don't you read number 6 here?
If your dog needs to relieve himself, how does he get your attention? A, he'll wait patiently and hope you realize he's had to go since Star Trek marathon 6 hours ago. B, he'll approach you with his leash in his mouth or bark. Or C, he'll find your brand new carpet and make sure you don't make him wait again.
Nice.
What do you think the answer is? C, that's a smart dog. Give this guy a round of applause.
Yeah. Woo! All right.
That's idiocracy. An IQ test.
Now, would you say that we are closer to legitimate AI than people think? Because I know some guys who wouldn't pass the Turing test,
It's a good question too. I think we'll actually also bring that up later in one of the 8 questions.
Yeah. Let's wait on that one. That's a good idea.
But what's interesting about this question is a lot of people ask, like, what is artificial intelligence? And in order to help them answer that, you first have to ask, like, what's human intelligence? What makes us intelligent? And a lot of times, smart people said, oh, well, the smartest people, we can play chess really well. So they played chess and they thought, oh, once we have a chess computer, it will be like smarter than a human, and then we solved intelligence. And like you said, nothing happened after they did it.
Yeah, that was dumb.
Exactly. It was actually pretty dumb.
Yeah.
And
The most
Stupid
intelligent
investment.
thing we could do as humans is play chess. Is that?
Yeah,
That
that's
sounds
simple.
like a really dumb answer.
Sounds like a guy who
That's
likes
right.
chess a lot.
Yeah.
So the problem was that a lot of very smart people just looked at other smart people and they thought about some very specific functions and they forgot some very simple things like visual understanding, computer vision. That was really hard for a long time. Just speech understanding, like transcribing speech. Both of those things we can now do thanks to like deep learning algorithms only in the last couple of years.
So smart people had to look at dumb people to understand intelligence.
A little bit, yeah,
Way to go.
and appreciate that.
I contribute in my own way, is what I'm trying to say.
And then I think language is the most interesting manifestation of human intelligence because it's connected to thought. It's actually connected to the visual world, right? We can talk about the visual world. It's connected to a lot of different things.
So you got interpersonal, bodily, kinesthetic, linguistic, interpersonal, spatial, naturalist. Is he wearing clothes? I don't know. Musical, logical, mathematical, and existential, which is just like a guy crying in a corner wondering. Are these all different kinds of intelligences?
So I think visual understanding is missing from this one, and I'm not sure we're tackling some of those in AI, but those are definitely.
I don't know. I don't
We should
understand.
tackle
Good list.
naturalism.
I
Get an
don't-
AI so smart it just takes its clothes off and says, fuck it.
That's a fun one, yeah.
Yeah.
Should solve that one.
Solve that one.
Some musical intelligence is questionable, like Paris Hilton DJing and.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is
She's-
that
she's not as
does
good
that
as
mean humans
people.
are intelligent?
Yeah. Good point.
But
Now-
AI can compose music now. In fact, I had some students in my
Nice.
Stanford class
Really?
who are creating like very
Now you're just
interesting
showing off.
melodies.
That's cool.
What kind of music?
They're in Santa Cruz too. There's a big professor down there that's making music as well.
Yeah, in many ways, it's
Making music.
just predict the next note. So we had one project where they actually tried to generate waveforms, which is like, that music is more like.
Right.
But
Robots
then
like that.
Where you
Do
allow
that
them,
again.
My favorite.
make a GIF out of it. But then when you actually allow it to generate discrete notes, then it actually can like do some cool stuff, like some classical music. You can train it on different composers, and it'll sound more like those composers. It's pretty
Interesting.
So really, what you're trying to say is your album's dropping soon, and
That's
cool,
right.
man.
Existential is one of those. Like, are people working on that? Like,
No.
they're like, man, I can't wait until we can make a robot that can suffer.
Yeah. It reads Camus and cries. That's what it.
So those are more human intelligence like
Human,
aspects
yes.
that we're not working
We're
on.
not
in
touching
AI.
on. Yeah.
And we'll be touching on NLP, natural language processing, and computer vision, and we had motor intelligence as one of the answers. So let's
robotics is hard.
Why don't
We're-
you come in? You
Yes.
can take a seat, everybody.
There's still
I
plenty.
don't know if there are
there's still
seats.
plenty
Is
of
there?
room at
Practice.
the top. If you go
You-
all the way to the top,
Practice
there's
your
still seats.
kinesthetic intelligence.
You four could probably sit in that seat right there in the middle.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mark. Up in the top right, there are seats. I see up there as well.
Practice your awkward intelligence.
Yeah.
Like awkwardly moving through.
There's still room.
Hey, sorry about this show being so goddamn
if you want to come see,
successful.
there's still room up there.
In terms of motor intelligence, we're actually like below the level of a B, I would argue. still.
For which one?
Motor intelligence?
Well,
Oh, motor.
Okay, well, sure, yes, but then 10 years ago, we were still plugged in for somebody that couldn't move their arm, was able to think and move their arm. So
That's more like, that's not artificial intelligence, right? We're
Yeah,
connecting
yeah,
it
yeah.
back to the brain.
yeah. So the B example, you have to be able to adjust for things like the
No
wind.
The
pun
wind,
intended.
like you have to plan your whole trajectory, you have to go, then the flower's moving, you have to
Land
land
there,
and then
yeah.
get some stuff, go back. Like it's actually pretty complicated, and you have to
Yeah.
like do it in milliseconds on a tiny compute. Like you only have like 1 million neurons at most in a bee, or maybe 100,000 or so.
Yeah, yeah.
And like it can do all of that, and we have technically more neurons in artificial neural networks, and they still can't do that, and certainly not at that speed.
mean,
Can you
neither
think
can
of a
I.
parallel of intelligence that's a little bit more painful sounding than bees? That would be awesome, I think. Yeah, that would make.
I'm not going to bring up the Terminator.
Okay.
What's up with you and suffering?
I don't know.
He- this is
I'm in a
what-
mood.
He's in his mood. He's
Yeah.
drinking.
Wasp and
All right.
All right.
Let's go to our next question.
Let's do it. All right, Richard.
All right, what is deep learning?
Is that a trick question? Shallow learning, the opposite of?
Some people
Thank
try
you.
to make that stick.
Thank you.
Deep learning. Well, you go to a deep place and you bring a book. This.
That's a robot that reads a lot of Nietzsche.
That's probably it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
No God. Anybody have an idea of what deep learning is? I think we have some actual real answers.
All right, hold on. Let's go up there. All right, let's pass the mic down, please.
I'm gonna disappoint you, Alan. I'm gonna say ocean vodka.
Yeah, that's my
Ocean
girl.
vodka.
Fuck yeah, Eureka. That's a
Is
Eureka.
that-
That's
That's
it,
a
right?
Eureka
Is that deep
fucking
learning?
moment.
That's probably it.
Yeah, that's
All right.
close.
Is that what
Another
prevents
answer?
deep learning?
Another
Best
answer.
Dadaist answer.
Yeah, is this real?
When there's a model, when you learn from data by learning a first set of features, and then it learns from those basic set of features, you build a deeper network of the second layer of features, and from then so on, you build a network that goes deep down. Really, think of a
Yeah, that sounds
I'm
just.
gonna-
Is that
that
correct?
sounds
I'm
right.
gonna go with the vodka answer.
Yeah, I thought ocean vodka was
That was
pretty
correct.
good too.
I think he had some
Let's-
vodka deep learning before he
Let's,
said.
it's technically not wrong, but if you don't understand what it means, it doesn't actually explain it to you. So
Yes.
Okay,
let's
all
do
right.
one or
Keep
two
going.
more.
Ooh.
Try another
Attack
drink
of the
name.
nerds over here.
I don't have one as good as him, but is it something like you don't just learn facts, you learn something that teaches you how to behave in future?
Also true, but doesn't quite
Doesn't quite
give
get
you
it.
all the
Is it-
information. We have
Go
two more.
deeper, people.
Okay.
Two more.
Wait. We
Go
had-
deeper.
We had. Hold on, we're
try
gonna go
number
here
two.
first.
Perception,
Vodka lady.
all that.
Is it absolute vodka?
So deep learning is taking data and ingesting it into a model or multiple models where
Yummy.
you look for pattern analysis in these models where you can then identify larger patterns over and over again and then identify them more. For instance, looking at, for specific items inside of an image. So you might identify faces, and then you start by identifying one human face, then you can create the model to identify more and more specific human faces to where you might identify, a specific person's face. So you take.
Yeah.
I don't know. Nobody's
Yeah,
mentioning
how about
chess
that?
here,
You
so
knew
I
his-
don't think
He's gone
that's
to.
right.
It's also true. Now I'm kind of curious to hear her
Also
answer,
true.
and then
I feel like
we'll
he's
vote.
trying to
We'll
figure
vote.
out the
He's the closest
answer.
so far. I
Okay.
think it was
This
pretty
guy
good.
seemed the most confident, though.
Yeah.
You knew he was gonna get it right as soon as he started.
Yeah.
You're all correct. Everybody should get some prize, but
Is it unsupervised learning? So basically without
No.
labeling?
All right.
that one, thank
Ooh,
you.
that was quick.
That one-
Damn.
Yeah.
That was the first one that was
Okay.
not true.
This is the fun side.
Good,
of
good
it.
try. Good try.
Was
All
that
right, I think
positive?
he should. He
Was
should
that
get
hot enough? All right,
right.
Eureka!
All right. Eureka.
Sorry, lady, you wasted your chance on a joke answer.
We love you for it.
It was good though.
So-
we
so
we
get the next
appreciate
one.
it.
It's the opposite. It's actually mostly supervised algorithms right now that are doing
look at this.
so well.
All right, sir, we have for you a book.
Maybe I don't.
Maybe. You're arguing over it right now. You can debate it afterwards. We got machine learning for absolute beginners. Don't know if you qualify as an absolute beginner. Sounds like you know something. Hey, you want to read the book's dedication out loud? I thought this was nice.
This book is dedicated to my high school's math teacher, Jason Jock O'Connell, for his enthusiasm for advanced mathematics and Friday afternoon YouTube cat videos.
That's amazing. So he was phoning it in on Friday afternoon, but otherwise he was awesome, just like you. Give him a round of applause.
All right. Way to go.
All right.
He came up here and he said artificial general intelligence will be able to do unsupervised learning. He's such a smarty pants, this guy.
I think unsupervised learning is a little overhyped, but. So it's a large set of algorithms that tried to learn patterns from raw data without human domain expertise.
He even gave us an example.
So the example was good, but usually the networks, when you'd give it images, the first layer would not identify faces, it would actually just identify little edges. And then the next layer, it would combine these edges into corners and more complex ones. And then if you go another level deeper in these algorithms, they might pick up certain patterns.
How
and
does that not have
holes.
anything to do with vodka?
That's true. Well, vodka actually
First
reduces
shot,
your pattern
I'm kinda-
recognition.
Yeah, you're right.
That's right.
Things get fuzzier and the faces go away. It's
Yeah,
the
I guess
opposite
this
of-
is reverse vodka.
And so each of these words, they might not mean that much, like raw data. What does that mean? You know, it means like you just have the pixels or the raw words that you have in a text. And if you want to do sentiment analysis and you'd use traditional machine learning, you would say, well, I know all the positive words like wonderful and awesome and beautiful, and I know all the bad words like shitty and bad and awkward and lame. And then you'd say, now, I just count how many positive words I see and how many negative words I see, and then I can do sentiment analysis and classify any kind of text. But then you look at the errors that your system makes, and you see, oh, actually there are things like not awesome and not good. And then you're like, okay, well, I know all the ways I can negate something, so not and doesn't, and so on. And you keep doing that, and you realize, and that's sort of the domain expertise part, you realize you're never going to get to the full thing, because there's always some complex stuff. Like you can say, this movie doesn't care about cleverness, wit, or any other kind of intelligent humor. And then, doesn't care about these positive things should be negative. And so deep learning can basically just take all this supervised, this labeled data, and figure out this stuff by itself. It figures out negation patterns, or it figures out speech patterns to do speech recognition, or it figures out how pixels combine to complex features like eyes and to identify faces, and learns all of that from just the raw data.
And maybe you walk us through this example right here.
There you go.
Those
are the edges I was mentioning.
Is this theoretical, or are we there yet?
We're here.
This is it.
Oh,
like
dang.
visual understanding, like classifying images of faces and objects. We can do speech recognition. You can now use on your phone. Sentiment analysis. We can get 90+% accurate, and so on. I mean, there's some very few examples in sentiment analysis where you would need just world knowledge to understand. Like you could say, this is a typical Nicolas Cage movie. And only if you
doesn't pick up the
his
sarcasm
not so
in that
great
space.
So not so
movies,
cool.
Yeah.
Not so cool.
you know that's probably negative. But then there are some genuinely like ambiguous cases too. Like you could say, this is a great movie for frat boys.
Right.
And then
And
the
you're
New
like,
York
Pick up
intellectual
on
would be like,
Is that,
that's
is that
pretty bad."
ambiguous, though? I don't know.
Well, to us,
It's a positive review
unambiguous.
for all the
It's
frat
unambiguous,
boys out
yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Like,
And it's almost instantaneous now. You can click and drag an image into Google search.
that's right.
So how does that work? What is the deep neural network? What is you go from input, and then how do you look at the different pixels, and how does it generate image? How do you scan it, etc.?
I mean, I don't want to get too technical here. You have,
Well, let's give us the lay
Yeah.
version. Yeah.
so you have these
Layman's.
convolutional filters. You can think of a filter. These are kind of
go.
filters.
Show.
These kinds of filters. And now if you convolve, you move that, you slide that over the image, this particular filter might fire exactly when it sees that kind of edge.
Okay, so we're scanning from top left across to bottom.
It almost doesn't matter which direction you do it. It's just like whatever's efficient on your GPU. But for instance, this filter would fire a lot all over the white area because it's a white filter. And like this sort of vertical edge would fire at this vertical part of the image. And then you basically describe this whole image only in terms of those kinds of filters, and then you try to find those kinds of things from those filters. And you keep going higher and higher.
Yeah.
And then at the top level, it would fire when it sees much larger patterns.
Is this how our brains work?
That is actually, so in general, a lot of people say deep
Speak
learning
for
is
yourself.
neurally inspired, which is usually just a cop-out for like, because nobody really knows a lot. We don't know a lot of things about the human brain.
Yep.
However, in computer vision, unlike in a lot of other areas of deep learning, there are actually neurons, and we know that the visual cortex 1 does have exactly those kinds of edge filters.
Really?
So, and you can test this with like not so fun experiments with mice where you stick electrons into the brain. And you can, when kittens, for instance, are raised in environments that only show vertical patterns while they grow up, kittens.
With vertical patterns?
Like let's say you raise a kitten in like a maze or some labyrinth or something that only has vertical
As one
patterns.
does.
What he meant to say is if you want to torture a kitten
Yeah.
Yeah, let's just
for
torture
science,
For science.
the best way to do that is to surround it in a maze with like blinds and make everything vertical.
And
just say
then-
it was mice. That's
And then what's
Say mice.
fascinating is like after if they are old enough and
To
to
escape.
grow up only in that maze, and you put them into another environment that only has like horizontal patterns, they cannot see. They cannot see the differences.
Wow.
Oh,
So there's a
really?
certain formative period where you
Kitty.
learn these kinds of edges.
Do you
So-
have pets?
I used to.
So we know now.
Wonder what that's about.
Yeah.
I didn't figure out
Yeah,
those
yeah, yeah.
horizontal edges.
Yeah.
Cue the ominous.
We've
Fell down the
definitely.
stairs.
You cannot leave maze, you die.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
We've absolutely learned that people who work on AI like dogs better than cats. This is informative.
This is good, yeah.
Sad kitty.
So yeah, so we have
blind
actually, and there are
kitty.
even so-called grandmother or Jennifer Aniston neurons that fire when you see a specific like famous person.
Did you say grandmother or Jennifer Aniston? I need my eyes checked. I think my neuron.
There's the Jennifer Aniston neuron. Yeah.
Is there really? Can you get that removed? I'm just curious if you want to replace it with a different one. And what if you erase a human in a bigger maze with only vertical? What do you think?
So obviously you can't really run those experiments.
Okay, but
There's some
hypothetically,
ethics.
let's say we had a volunteer or something.
Anymore.
Okay, there's actually a
Volunteered at
really
birth.
sad story. There's also a formative period for language, and
Shouldn't have asked.
I don't know if we should go there, but there's
Yeah, go
a
ahead.
story of a girl actually in California
Yeah.
that
Oh, I
grew
heard
up
about that girl.
and she was horribly neglected, and the child services only found her locked in her room when she was 9 or 10 years old, and she could not learn language. The formative period for language learning in humans is also the first couple of years, and if you don't learn language, she only got to like 200 words or so after she was taken out.
Yeah, she's doing fine though. She's great.
Actually.
But that
Everything
kitty
will
finish that
though,
story. It's really
that kitty
depressing.
though,
Wow.
So we.
real upper this AI world.
So what did you guys think? Do you guys think that this became a little more clear here?
Yay.
Yay!
That's good.
All right, let's
All
go
right,
on to
let's
the next
go.
question.
What is natural language processing?
So it's natural language processing. That's what it was called.
You know, it's a little more complicated than that, but it is a very exciting subfield at the intersection of linguistics, the study of just pure language for language's sake, computer science, and artificial intelligence. We try to capture tasks related to language that are useful. So, for instance, you want to do machine translation, speech recognition, search, sentiment analysis, and all those things.
And is that an example right there?
That is one example of a parser. It's actually a dependency parser. I did not choose that GIF, but it's a nice shift-reduce parser. Yeah, to create a dependency structure that tells you that A is a determiner and ticket was a direct object of the verb booked and things like that.
It'd be
So
funny
that's
if
one
the
analysis.
example-
This is a syntactic analysis of
Yeah.
an English sentence.
I think it'd be really funny if the example was that racist stuff that Kramer said that one time, right?
I had a hard time
Over-
finding that GIF for some reason.
There's another parse. This one is a fun, this I call a constituency parse tree. Who chose? I did not choose these, but these are cool. So this is actually an interesting PP attachment. So here's a fun problem in NLP, which
Wait,
is
PP?
that's right.
Okay.
I feel like throwing you.
Yeah.
This is a
I'm
bathroom
not
break
taking
for
that. I have
everyone.
Zone
some.
there.
I have some dignity. I'm not making a joke about it.
So the PP attachment disambiguation problem is kind of fun.
What does
I'm sorry,
PP
go
mean?
ahead.
What does PP mean?
So let's say I have
PP.
a sentence.
What does PP mean?
Let's say I have
Yeah,
a
what is a PP?
is that a
I'll get
verb
there,
or
I'll
a
get there.
noun?
I'll get there. So
Moist.
PP is a prepositional phrase. Starts
it-
with a preposition like under. So let's say I eat the spaghetti with the fork, or I eat the spaghetti with the meatballs. Now with the meatballs or with the fork is the prepositional phrase. And depending on the interpretation, you would attach it to either the verb or the spaghetti, either the eating or the spaghetti. So if I say I eat spaghetti with a fork, then with the fork changes how you eat it. But with the meatballs would change what kinds of spaghetti you eat. And this is, you disambiguate where the prepositional phrase attaches. Does it attach to the noun or does it attach to the verb?
And then
In
how do
those
you,
kinds of trees.
how do you distinguish between those two? With the fork and the meatballs?
With those trees.
Okay, so with the tree, so you program it so that way you
right.
can figure
One's
it out.
made of metal.
So if you like, this
Are we
PP
smoking
here
the trees?
attaches to the
Everybody
verb
do that?
phrase from sitting.
And so how do you build that out in with algorithms, the computer algorithms? Yeah.
That's right.
So you got that sentence from the letter S. I'm just trying to
Yeah,
follow.
S is just sentence. The top thing is always sentence.
Got it.
Unless it's a
I
fragment.
knew that.
Or a question.
English
and
major.
and it's similar over there
Right
with
here.
fly over the boat with the red bow.
Yeah, that is an interesting ambiguous phrase, right?
So the more ambiguous, the more difficult it is to parse it.
That's right. It's really hard for language, for natural language algorithms to disambiguate those kinds of phrases. Because you need to know that, like, with the fork versus with the meatballs, like, what are the semantics to actually understand where it attaches?
And so how good are we at this right now then, like percentage-wise in terms of?
We're getting better, but there's still certain things where we don't have enough world knowledge. Like, you can change one word and it changes a lot what the meaning of another word is. So for instance, Jane hit Susie and then she fell versus and then she ran away. Now, depending on the verb, the meaning of she actually changes. So this is called an
Still
aphoresolution.
a bitch, though.
Boom.
There it is. You,
Jesus Christ.
your brain's
Fucking
working.
Jane.
So
Okay.
that is still hard. We're not perfect at it.
Why are you so fascinated with NLP, with this field?
Because it's sort of related to deep learning. On the one hand, it really teaches us about what makes us human, like what is intelligence. And in many ways, humans are not very nice to things that aren't as intelligent as we are, like pigs or cows. So we define ourselves
Or
largely
cats.
through our intelligence.
Or other humans?
Or cats,
We're
maybe?
good. I think we're better with cats than with cows. But
Yeah.
Is AI going to do that to us?
I don't think so, because it hasn't been raised in a resource-constrained environment.
We're
like
not
we are.
grass-fed.
But it's science
Oh,
fiction
it
anyway.
might. Yeah.
We're not grass-fed, so we can't.
Keep going with NLP.
All right.
though.
NLP. So on the one hand, it's this almost philosophical question, like what makes us human, and then language itself is connected to thought and to the visual world and to emotions and so societies and
Yes.
everything. And then at the same time, like of all this like interesting basic research, algorithms just make a lot of money. Search is like makes Google billions of dollars. And these AI algorithms are, they span this whole spectrum from interesting basic research all the way to applications we all use all the time, machine translation, even though I think we'll get to that soon.
Okay.
But
Yep.
yeah, it's just like this great spectrum from basic research to super useful stuff.
So so one of the best things about NLP is the ability for us to parse the thing that makes us human, which is our communication,
That's right.
and make that more applicable and more bettering our lives.
That's right.
Okay, great. NLP.
That's crazy. Okay, have you seen that movie Batteries Not Included?
No.
It was a good one. It was a good one. Okay, go ahead.
Sorry.
All right.
All right, let's go to the next one.
On to our next question. Question 4.
Oh, I hope I didn't give too much away just now, but name 3 applications of AI that you may use in your day-to-day life.
All right. So let's
we get-
take an answer. All right, here we go.
So Google Maps, like it seems like it's using algorithms that take information from all the sources that it can draw from to give us a better map to get to a place.
Yeah, that's correct.
He invented Google Maps, by the way.
When it
You may not
loads
be aware of that.
properly.
Yeah.
Yeah, can you get
Gotta
2
name
more?
3 to get the whole Eureka.
Okay, 2 more.
An earlier version of Google Maps.
Okay, search algorithms that deliver stuff to you that you want.
You just
say
say
Definitely
Google
right.
Maps
based on
again.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Google
boy.
search now. Okay.
No, it could be Yahoo.
It's not Yahoo anymore, I thought.
That's
So Map Search and Yahoo?
Okay.
Map search
game
and
development.
GeoCity homepage. I think
Game development, like your path through a game that remembers where you are as you move through a universe.
You were so
Ah.
close. You're
So
so close with those first
close.
2.
Yet far away.
I think he's feeling the pressure.
That's what I got.
right.
I thought it was
Facebook.
so close.
You were
It was
close.
pretty good.
That's very
Facebook.
The
good.
next person only has to get 1
What are you
right.
going to say, Facebook?
Okay, maybe shopping.
Facebook?
Maybe what?
Shopping?
Shopping.
Shop.
But I think that's
Just
the same as the
shopping is
second
not
one.
AI.
Yeah,
Like
that's-
you can
that's-
just click on like
no,
that's a
this-
cool
I
hand.
think
Can you-
my second one was pretty close to that. Like
Shopping for AI.
The more you shop for, the more they know what you want. Which was where I was
Recommendation
going.
engines will count it. Eureka!
Oh, you got it. Yes, come on
Give him a round
down.
of applause, everyone.
Oh my gosh. Recommendation programs. Come on
Recommendation
down.
engines.
Oh.
Definitely a
Engines,
subfield of
excuse me.
AI.
Engines.
All right, good job. Stay right here. You're right here. All right, so we have a lot of different examples of AI. You've named some of them. We hear AI all the time, right? We hear it all the time tonight in this conversation. We hear it, especially in San Francisco, in the tech world, et cetera, AI. But, it's an acronym. And in this case, AI stands for artificial intelligence. But sometimes AI stands for artificial insemination. This is also AI. This is your totally disposable K9 AI kit, large.
Dude, you can impregnate ladies
So,
with that.
just a sidebar. I was a very early adapter at donating to a friend that's gay, and I have a daughter that's going to college because of it, and artificial insemination was a part of that process.
Oh, look, it all comes together.
Look at that.
Look at that. Now, do you have a dog? You have 2 dogs.
Going to college, both of them.
Are they, what are they, male, female? Or?
Mother and son, two Jack Russell terrorists.
Do you think?
I feel like this will be the first Eureka prize that will actually be hung on a wall somewhere.
Would,
I hope
show it
not.
to your daughter. That wouldn't be creepy at all. Give him a round of applause.
Good answer.
Sweet.
Dad of the Year award right there.
That was great.
Ha! What's your question?
Yeah. So we got natural language processing with Siri.
I thought Vladimir Putin was saying that at first. It did look like that.
So mostly, speech recognition works really well in Siri. Search at Google. You brought that up.
That was a good example of persistence being really important, right? Yeah, that was good persistence.
He knew what the prize was.
And you even got the last one, Amazon recommendation engines. Boom.
Excellent.
And Vision, Facebook's, face identification, selecting which friends.
Well, how come
might be
they
in the picture.
can't recognize that I already bought the item they're suggesting?
I know. Amazon's recommendation engine, I don't know what they're doing.
You just bought 12
I'm not
minutes.
involved.
Do you want another one? No.
know.
Just need.
They don't understand the difference between repeat items and non-repeat items. I don't know.
You must see AI from other companies sometimes and be like, you guys are bullshit.
Yes.
Yeah. Can you give us some examples? Yeah.
No,
Come on.
Don't give examples.
Talk your shit.
We just brought
AI gossip hour begins now.
Who
we
sucks?
brought up a good one.
Fight,
The
fight.
Amazon recommendation engine is as far as I'll go.
Well, can you speak in euphemisms or speaking describe this company is the one that does this.
Just have it rhyme with something. Like it's not Amazon. And it's
There's a lot of hype
Ramazan.
around. There's a lot of
Amazon?
hypey stuff around where people say, oh, we work on cognitive, artificial general intelligence type stuff, and that's just sci-fi still. We're not there yet. We don't know what kinds of objective functions we should have for something like this. We can't have algorithms that can do 5 tasks with the same algorithm, or 10 or 20. We have very specific algorithms that can do one task really, really well.
Yeah.
How many years away from that are we?
Tell me when I
somewhere
could quit my
between
job.
20 to 500.
Okay.
As good of an estimate as I will give you.
We're not going to be around in 500.
I like to give error bars to my estimates.
Okay, that's a big error bar.
You got some job security. That's
What are we
great.
closer to developing then? What's on the horizon?
Well, give us an example
Lots
of
of
the
pros,
next step.
I
So
think.
we have hyper-specialized artificial intelligence. What's the next step to add something to a single stream? Yeah.
So to me, that's actually multitask learning. A lot of people think it's unsupervised learning, but I don't
Cannot
think
do that.
intelligence emerges in an unsupervised way. We have a lot of supervision. Babies have sort of almost genetic supervision that they want food, they want attention because they don't want to be left in the jungle. They want to socially interact.
I love where this is. Guy did.
Naturally.
Labyrinths, jungles.
Yeah, you
Okay.
guys-
Continue.
So there's a lot of pre-wired kinds of objective functions in humans that make them want to learn language. They want novelty, they want to be able to predict things. So we can do some of those things, but we can't have a single model that learns all these different kinds of types of intelligence, like language and visual and so on. In fact, we're very good at only single task learning. So one thing that my group's working on a lot is actually multitask learning. Having a single model that can do 5 or 10 different things all in the same jointly trained model.
Like a mom.
That's right.
Yeah.
Like a mom, they can multitask, they
Yeah.
can do lots of different things.
And so you compare this to a child because something like a hypothalamus will tell us to get food and then to have sex. Well, not child, but
Whoa, whoa, Alan.
but-
Childhood did you have?
but
Lots of weird
but
stuff
get
happening in that
water,
jungle.
Get water,
much subtext.
etc. And so this is multitasking ability of the mind. And so is that similar to what you're building?
So
Can
we're
you-
mixing up 2 different things. So the child and sort of pre-wired are the objective functions. What are the objective functions that we should give an algorithm such that it will eventually capture all kinds of different intelligence that we discussed in the first question, right? That is the first problem. We don't know what those objective functions are. And the second problem is if we knew what those objective functions are, we couldn't right now take just a single model off the shelf and say, all right, just learn all of that. Because all the models we have right now are really only good at very specific things. And then people get very excited about games too, and games are really fun and they're really cool, but just like with chess, it's hard, they don't actually generalize often to a lot of other things that are super noisy. Like chess and Go are very discrete
Yes.
environments, and the world is very fuzzy and very ambiguous.
So with your team right now, you're saying you're doing 5+ activity multitasking. What does that look like? Can you give us an example?
Sure. So we want to have like a single natural language processing algorithm, for instance, that can do this syntactic parsing, but can also understand named entities, like who are the people and locations and organizations in a text. They can do machine translation, they can do summarization, and they try to do all of those things in a single algorithm.
Okay, so for example, customer relationship management, can we maybe get into that, or like some sort of... Okay, so
who wants to do that? Who's getting their PhD? Like, I got to go into customer service chatbots. That's the...
So then the multitasking ability would be to receive a long an email potentially, and then it's the ability to analyze sentiment. It's the ability to summarize. It's the ability to know location. So this is your multitasking.
And eventually just give you the answer. Yeah.
And
so
okay.
When somebody,
Or
you
just
send an
answer-
email.
Yeah.
You know what's bullshit is that humans weren't very good at that.
That's right.
And then we were like,
Weren't?
yeah, maybe
Still
robots
aren't.
will be better.
And sometimes they are.
Okay, all right, never mind
They
that.
don't,
Yeah, that's a good point.
robots don't give you any lip.
You know,
When
when,
you're trying to
when
return
you get the
stuff
question like, how do I
after
recover
30
my
days.
password for the 500th time?
Yeah.
I think in the next 5 to 10 years,
Yeah.
if you as a person are doing a job and you're like, I already gave that answer, or I already typed
Yes.
that in, or I already answered this in voice, or I already showed this 5 times or 500 times to some system, you'd be like, why am I doing this again? Like,
Because you
this should
deleted your
already picked it
cookies.
up.
Browser cookies. Never mind. No one's with me here. I say,
Quick
all alone.
question on the deep neural network that we saw earlier. What would the multitasking layer look like within that deep neural network?
That was not the right kind of architecture that
Okay.
could actually do this, and that's why we have to do research to find better
And
architectures than that.
And that's proprietary across different organizations, how to multitask with AIs?
Actually, one of the cool things and the reasons why AI is progressing so much is that very few, almost no good AI system right now is actually secret.
Okay. And you have Elon Musk's OpenAI and
that,
stuff
and
like
like even my group, every group in AI research, even in industry, actually publishes their results, their papers. We try to compare our different algorithms on public benchmark data sets, and so on. So that's why the field is progressing so quickly.
But you're hiding the good stuff, right? Saving that for the next company that you're
Yeah, I mean, the stuff that doesn't work is hard to publish because there are a lot of things that don't work.
So right now you guys will have a benchmark test that you will 2 or 3 entities will go and say, this is how well we do in it, this is what
That's
we do
right.
well, and then you'll compare?
That's right. Who has
I had
the
no idea
highest
the
accuracy?
Wow.
Well, so no one's trying to control that, or they kind of said, let's not do that. We need to advance further.
Yeah, why isn't there like a typical corporate thing where it's like, this is our information, you can't have our information?
So there's a lot of that, of course, too. So like, Google does not give all the details about their search algorithm. And
Did they just publish a paper that said, it worked, bro, and that was, and they just passed that along?
Trust us, Google
Is that how they share?
So you need 3 things to actually make money with a product in AI, and that is the data, the algorithms, and the workflow integration. And the workflow integration is very different for search than it is for like Uber. You actually have to have the cars drive around and like connect people in an app and all of that. And like in customer relationship, you actually have to have the emails coming in and store them somewhere and know who that person is that's sending that email and all of that stuff. But the algorithms are only one piece. And so the algorithms are usually public. We publish them. But then to make them really useful, you got to have the data sets. And then there
workflow integration and hardware, too.
That's right. That's right.
That's a lot.
Eureka,
Yeah.
Alan.
Yeah. Eureka communicating this. This is great. Okay, let's
let's
move
ahead.
on.
Next one.
Let's do
Side
it.
question. Who's working on AI for like sexy stuff?
So there are a friend trained.
Yeah, a friend of mine.
A guy I know. Kind of looks like me.
Dabbling. Looks like
But
Ed
not me.
Sheeran.
Asking for a friend.
Yeah.
He made little quotes with his fingers too.
A friend of mine trained romance novels. They trained an AI algorithm to generate a description of an image based on a language prior trained on romance novels. So you give it like a very plain image, and it just like comes up with a kind of a cute romantic description.
Oh, that's hot. So you get to read what it puts out, and you're like, oh yeah, supple. That's where it's at.
Yeah,
That's right.
43 references to nipple. It's amazing. And what's it being used for?
It's just for shits and giggles.
Shits and giggles. Oh, I got to check out that website.
It'll get you started.
Is that what it's called nowadays? Shits and giggles, huh?
And then-
Yeah, romance novels make you want to shit and giggle, so I think that makes perfect sense. I think we got a startup in the works right now.
He needs to be up here, that guy.
I gotta find these giggle fetishes. I don't know
Yeah.
where those are.
I won't
That
even
would be
tell
your
you.
jam.
I know.
Yeah, I won't tell you where the giggling comes in. It's
Before we move on to the next question, what really?
the fab AI.
Alan is giggling a little bit.
I am very giggling. Yeah.
Fantasy level down. You gotta.
So, we have over these last few decades have had the proliferation of technology, and it's been kind of like a black box. You start looking at like what the actual smartphone does, how it actually works with the parts inside of it. We're kind of becoming further and further away from the central pieces. We're now closer and closer to the outsides of the technology. And for example, we listed all of the different AIs that we use in our day-to-day life that people like you have made into the world, and we use them, and it feels great because they make our lives better, but we're kind of far away from the actual code and the actual way that it works. And so that's why we do this. We do this to hopefully tie people closer to that mystery black box that's, that we're so far on the outside. Can we get closer to the inside and make it relatable to our lives?
That's pretty poetic.
Yeah. That's
Now-
why we're here sharing that algorithm for the romance novels after the show. Everyone gets a free copy.
So I got a question. If we were gonna try to make Westworld with the technology that we have right now, how shitty would that be, huh?
Westworld, this is a great show, and I think it's also a great
Don't
show.
shit on Westworld. Go on.
That it shows us the effects of having bad training data, and this is actually kind of real.
That's good.
In that AI is very general purpose technology. You can train AI to do lots of great things. Like we're working in my group on breast cancer detection, and on previously in my startup we worked on identifying brain bleeds and had CT scans to prioritize cases where if they come in and just like low priority and they wait 20 minutes to get a radiologist to look at their scan, and 10 minutes into those 20 minutes of wait time they die because they had a brain bleed. And if an algorithm had looked at that right away, put it to the top of the queue, you could save these lives, and we did. So there are lots of cool applications of AI.
And they did.
Yeah, no, this was running in production.
Oh, snap.
Yeah, that's great.
Dude.
That's right.
You
Well, I'm
redeemed yourself from the
superhero.
cat. The
Yeah.
child.
Not
That's
mad
so
about the
cute.
cat
Still like
anymore.
cats.
Who else was checking this guy for a wedding ring while he was giving that explanation?
Oh, we got a hand raise up there. Yeah.
But then, okay, here comes the dark part. You can use the same algorithm to build a shoot, don't shoot classifier. Right? It's terrible.
Ah.
And it's like,
The same exact one that can be used in war.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, you
It's a
probably
good
don't
point.
want to shoot the person with a brain bleed.
Yeah,
That's a good point.
Well, okay, so in the classic example of you're driving down a road and the child falls off the bicycle, you either run into the child or you hit another person, you kill them. So you have to pick a choose.
I mean, that one is
Or
actually
you can
kind of
just stop the
contrived.
car.
I think the
Like, why
reality
can't
is
we just stop the car.
Yeah, exactly. The
No.
self-driving cars.
You can't on time.
Honestly,
It's
I
going
think,
80.
But technically,
Okay,
wouldn't
here's
the-
wouldn't
let's-
it already see it ahead of time? 'cause
So,
it's
so
so
there's
late
that.
for
work. You
Honestly,
gotta-
I think the more realistic problem of self-driving cars is that they're going to be so hella slow that people are going to be really pissed off because they're creating traffic
All right.
jams.
They should have
for a long
bulletproof
time.
windows then.
Hella
imagine doing
slow.
imagine doing
Not
a
just slow,
drive-by in
hella
your
slow.
self-driving Google car, just slowly going through.
That's
Come
not-
on, come on. Okay.
Lyft wouldn't do that.
So-
Uber would do that.
Uber
though.
would do that.
Compare that
The
back.
drive-by
back again.
option, Uber Machine Gun X. Okay.
How
I
is-
thought Will Smith already took care of this question.
How is scanning medical
iRobot? No,
scans and picking between hurting somebody? How is that?
So the main point I'm trying to make is
Yeah.
like AI is very general purpose technology, right? There's no like single this is the AI, right? It's whatever you train it to do, it will do. So if you give it a bunch of images and say shoot, don't shoot, it will just predict shoot, don't shoot. And then if you give it a house or like the sky, it will still just give you a probability shoot, not shoot, right? So there's nothing that smart about it.
Like
If you-
cancer or not cancer?
Cancer, not cancer. Much better example, the kinds of things I would want to work on.
Yeah.
And so just like the internet or cars, like cars can be awesome. You transport people, you can transport sick people and so on, but you can also take a car and drive over people and it's terrible. You can use it to transport weapons, it's terrible. The internet is a wonderful thing,
points.
but the internet can be used to share terrible things nobody would want to see if they're, nice.
Shits and giggles porn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
Cyberbullying. Yeah.
That's right. And
really
so
bad
AI
stuff.
is very general purpose technology is only as good as the people who use it and the political systems that make use of it. And to come back
Amen.
to come back to the training data, it's like the training data, if the training data is biased and sexist and racist and not diverse and only is trained on like white males, it will only do well on white male predictions.
Wasn't it like the Microsoft Twitter bot?
That's right.
There it is.
Well, that thing was actually kind of like that thing was so easy to fool because it had one feature that said just repeat after me, and then people just made it say all these terrible things. It wasn't even that interesting of an attack vector, but in many ways, like yeah, there's some like image classification problems that came up in the past where people didn't train it on a very diverse set, and so it's very important in AI to think about diversity, both of the people working on it and the data sets that we're using to train these algorithms.
So we could eventually have a time where we invent like an artificially intelligent, racist, bigot robot.
We should try to avoid that.
Okay.
Emphasis on the artificial.
Artificial, yeah.
Yeah, we have lots of
got
natural ones of those.
We have
don't need
natural
to
ones.
train
Those we
another one.
homegrown.
I think that's an incredibly important thing to say, is not only diversity in training data, but diversity in people that are making them. I think we've definitely seen that in the Bay Area, a very heavily cosmopolitan area, that a lot of good creativity comes from the high amounts of diversity.
That's right.
Cool. All right.
Right. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Yeah, Bay Area.
Love the Bay Area. Can computers translate languages as well as humans?
I'm going to say no. I was on vacation this month, and I tried to use the Google Translate. Don't mean to shit on you guys, but I think I, like, disrespected my mother-in-law. Not cool.
What language
really?
does your mother-in-law speak?
Slovakian.
And you use Google Translate? You're like, wait, one moment.
I did. I wanted her to make me some food. She just made us see stripes. It was horrible. So yeah, I don't think
how you
computers.
insulted her? What
I
did you
can't
actually
even
say?
remember, but I was so embarrassed. I don't remember what it made me say. It made me say some horrible stuff. But she was laughing at me. Luckily, she has a good sense of humor.
That's good.
Can you fix that for her on the next trip?
Yeah. Anybody here from Google? No.
I'm still thinking about how many lives Richard can save.
All right, so
Like
what do you guys think?
Superman.
I mean, we know what your answer is, which is
Okay,
no.
We haven't had an answer from here yet.
I actually used it because I speak 3 languages, and they're from different groups. I have friends, now I use mostly English, and my computer is in English, but some of my friends, they do not speak English at all. And I'm lazy to type, and I'm so slow if I will try to type in my native language, because in past 20 years, I never used it. So few times I compared, and I got some messages from other people who tried to translate to English from their languages. Actually, English is pretty good, and it's pretty good when you translate it to Spanish, for example, but this is the same group. I am talking about different groups, and that was my question about your algorithm, because when you base algorithm on English, it has specific setting for each word. My native language is Slavic, same as yours. This is a big problem because, for example, we do not use articles. We mix words. I can put it anywhere in the sentence, but I have to change the ending of the word. Google is lost with that, trust me.
Morphologically rich languages are actually troublesome for some of the
other group of
algorithms.
languages, this is Semitic language, like Hebrew. It's much better. I'm guessing that Israelis work on that, but
I don't know.
yeah,
Syrians, no idea.
because they're good with science. I was there, but you know, the answer is they're so far from translating like humans do. For normal person,
That's
you
right.
can learn the language.
Boom, Eureka!
Eureka! Eureka! That was like a Yelp review
Yeah.
of all translations. I was like, how many stars is it getting? My God, this translator doesn't have Wi-Fi. It didn't open until 10 p.m. I hate this one. Oh my gosh.
Where are you from?
So wait, where are you from?
From San Francisco.
San Francisco. That's a genuine answer. It's where
Yeah,
I'm from too.
that's a Richmond district accent. if I ever heard.
I was gonna say Inner Sunset, but okay.
You know, we communicate in many different languages. You know, one of the most important languages these days
Love. Sorry.
is emojis. So this is a book on how to speak emoji. And we would love to have you read some of these. This is a section called relationships. Why don't you read just some of these from the top?
I need.
These are prescription. We can find out what happens. Okay. This one says, she charmed the pants off me. This one is, whose lipstick is on your collar? This one.
You have to say.
In some ways, it just kind of clusters a lot of frames, and it clusters them in a really smart way. So this is the definition of a cat neuron. It's a large artificial neural network, and inside that large artificial neural network, one neuron fires only when it sees the frontal phase of
The
a
cat neuron.
That's
So
right.
the brain
Like a
of.
guard.
And this works similarly to the Jennifer Aniston neuron?
Not really, because it's an
Okay.
artificial neural network, not a real human brain. But there's some interesting correlates between those things.
You're asking when it was first conceived of as an idea?
That's right. Oh, well, we're sort of, that was
Let's
another...
have you tell us which one's the answer, and we'll keep going.
Yeah.
That's right. It's actually like, some people thought about this in 1988. I have a poster in my
Someone was
living room.
like, cat neuron. This is, they just woke up from a cold sweat and they said, this is my dream.
That's right. I have a poster in my living room from...
They said cats are going to be real popular in 2012.
That's right.
All
And
right.
this is what it looked like. This is what the neuron basically captured, and it fired when it saw something that looked like that. And
Right. Or our friend up there, if he's brave enough to wear that
That's right.
mask.
And it didn't have to get trained. Usually you train all
Right.
these algorithms that we actually use in practice. They're all trained in a supervised way. Here like 1,000 cat images, here 1,000 dog images, here 1,000 car images. Now you differentiate between these three. Here it actually found it in an unsupervised way.
Okay.
And that's much more difficult than in a supervised
That's
way
right.
to find it.
So
What year?
that project was in 2012,
Okay.
but people thought of those ideas way earlier.
Cool.
Takes so long to find the cat neuron in life.
This is going to be a really important question, so we're going to go ahead and jump right into it.
What is an example of unsupervised learning and supervised learning? We had a couple of people already brought that up.
All right, we have an answer.
Very educational.
So supervised learning is when you provide the answer, when you are training the data. So for example, you are trying to predict the price of a house. So you know based on certain parameters, which are your features, you
That's
know
right.
this is going to be the price.
Close.
And unsupervised learning is, for example, clustering. So you have a lot of data points and you are trying to detect the patterns, but you don't know ahead of time what are those patterns going to be.
Gotta say, that was the biggest Eureka moment we've had all night.
Come on down.
That was perfect.
Spot
Excellent.
on.
Nailed it.
It's like she's in the artificial intelligence field
That's right.
herself. Are you?
You are? Oh.
Boom.
That
right.
robot
Well, we
next
got for you a
machine.
Eureka shirt for nailing it so well. And what do you study in artificial intelligence?
She is the artificial intelligence.
Different things.
Okay, different things. That was clear. All
Are
right.
you under NDA? You can't just tell us?
You can't give us any hint?
Little hint? I won't know what you're talking about, but just say it
User
anyway.
login patterns. So grouping users by the way they interact with systems.
All right.
Cool.
Round of applause
Awesome.
for grouping users. There it is.
Oh my gosh.
yeah. Login
I am
pattern.
so happy
Interesting.
that somebody that knew the answer said it first, because we didn't have to go through all the people that didn't know the answer.
I mean, literally, those are, like, I don't have to repeat much. She was just
Great
on the
job.
button. Unsupervised clustering examples, you find groups of people, share common traits, for example. Finding similar words in word vectors are one of the most successful unsupervised learning algorithms of the recent years. And then supervised, yeah, classifying emails as spam, classifying images as cats or dogs, and so on. Boom. That's like perfect.
And can you go ahead and break the example down below right now?
Supervised learning here, you have a bunch of examples, like these X's versus the circles, and you learn a decision boundary that says everything to the left of that boundary is in this class and everything to the right is in that other class. And this is really easy, but now imagine, which we can't, it's like a 50,000 dimensional space. Or it's like all the space of all images, and each pixel can have lots of different values, and now you want to still separate them out, and that's really, really hard. And then unsupervised learning, you have a
But before you move on, why is the boundary separated into binary one side?
So
or
in
the
this
other?
case, because you have a binary classification problem, you could have also a 5-class classification problem, or in fact a 10,000 class classification problem, which is not unrealistic. In for image classification, we can distinguish between 10,000 or so different categories. Usually, the more categories you have, the less accurate your system is, right? It's very easy to do sunflowers versus cars. That's like you can get 99.99% accuracy, but if you say like bottlenose dolphin versus like this other specific species of dolphin, it's harder, even for people and also for algorithms. And you need more training data for that. So that's supervised learning.
And maybe an example or two of that as well. Well, you said there's emails, a spam up there, in image classification. Okay.
It's like, what answer should I give to this incoming email in a support problem? What is the lots of examples.
All right.
In fact, the majority of stuff that works really, really well and that has changed our lives in the last couple of years is all supervised learning. So speech recognition, like this is the sound that comes in, out comes, what actual word is that? Image classification, image comes in, what class do I actually see in that image? Is this a brain bleed? Yes, no, and so on.
And that's because you've set the parameters prior to the data coming in.
No.
No.
You learn all the parameters based on the data. The model updates itself based on the data that it sees. Again, with machine translation, like German in, English out, French in, German out, things like that. So it's basically all supervised examples of learning.
Learns as it goes, but there's no preset.
That's right. You ideally just have the model start with random parameters, and then the parameters update themselves based on the data that you give it to train. And that's, again, where you need to be careful about the training sets, because if there are biases in the training set, the model will just learn those.
But you said based...
It's a great question. Does it have to have a dictionary to do the translation? That used to be the case in traditional machine learning, machine translation systems. Nowadays, we can literally go from characters. Just like, here's a string of characters, produce that other string of characters, and it still works just as well. It's really quite incredible what these new neural network algorithms, deep learning algorithms can do.
What changed recently?
What changed recently, again, it's those three things: data, hardware, and then the models. And the models, there's a lot of complexity, like what kinds of models, and how we train them, the optimization algorithms of those, how do you update the weights exactly, the architectures of them. The models nowadays, they can have memory components and attention components. There's a lot of complexity in the modeling side and a lot of just very active research that each paper, some papers you ignore, but then, every couple of months, there's one paper that really pushes the state of the art by like another 1 to 3%. It's quite incredible.
You said we need diversity in the data training set, yes? Okay.
Yep.
But if we need diversity in the data training set, we don't give it any parameters, like you said.
Right.
We just input in the data,
That's right.
diverse data, and then the machine learning will classify the data.
That's
for
right.
us. Okay, and then in unsupervised case.
So unsupervised learning basically just finds patterns and groups items based on those patterns. So what does that mean? They could have, for instance, like how many times does this person look for diapers, and how often on Amazon, and how often do they look for romance novels or something?
Okay, it's a good combination. Shits and giggles. He remembers. He's a smart man.
Shits and giggles.
He's a smart man.
And then you just like, you look at the clusters and you're like, oh, probably, there's one cluster here that is all like young moms, right? And then maybe there's another cluster of like old ladies. And then maybe you can like market different stuff to them or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Biased data set. What about
pegging
handsome
what you
men who happen to like diapers and romance novels? What about us?
That's right. Maybe it's a fetish. I don't know. So like you want to basically combine, like, you just find clusters of things. So it can be words in a large corpus. It can be people, depending on what kinds of features you have and what kinds of things you want to cluster.
And that would be the one where it would be harder to find clusters of like diaper romance novels, right? Like, because you need
But
more
if you do, it's
information,
a
right?
freaking gold mine.
Is that correct, or is that the other one?
Diaper romance
I feel
novels
like
is,
I
I
may
think,
not have asked the right question.
So if you wanted to cluster people, then your features would be like number of times looked for diapers versus number of times looked for romance novels. And each item here is a person. So you would cluster groups of people.
It's like Milks
Yeah.
versus
Yeah.
Cougar.
So
then you,
Kevin
like-
would be by himself. He'd
I
be his
would
own
be.
cluster.
I'd be way up near the top of the y-axis, just shivering in my diaper.
And maybe a quick touch on this really quick, because these are the major issues in supervised learning: bias, variance, trade-off, function complexity, and amount of training data, which we kind of talked about a little bit. Maybe we talk about bias, variance, trade-off.
Okay, super technical. I don't know
It
if
is?
we might lose some of the audience, but basically, a lot of times the algorithms, some algorithms might not be as powerful, so they have a larger bias. They might be off more, but then they also have a lower variance. They don't wiggle around as much. So, for instance, if you just do a linear regression, so let's say I only had a linear regression here, like this, then I can't be that far off, but I also have a large bias. And then sometimes you can have very low bias, but then you have a higher variance. The model can move around a lot more and create a lot more uncertainty in its predictions.
I think we
All
all
right.
followed that really
Yeah.
well.
And this is
Okay.
and with supervised learning
Could
is
go a long time on
supervised
bias
learning is
variance.
everything that we
just
discussed in the
happy you
beginning.
know
It's the best accomplishments that we've made so far have been
That's
in
right.
that realm.
Let's go to the next
Let's do
question.
it. All right, you go.
All right.
What if you took the meaning of king, subtracted the meaning of man, and add the meaning of woman? What
Yeah.
word should you get, and could AI figure that out by
Beyonce.
itself?
Beyonce is the correct
Beyonce's
answer.
the answer, guys. Beyonce.
It always is.
We have an answer.
Question.
Queen.
That's right.
That's
Yeah,
come on
Eureka!
down.
Wait. It's
It's
a
Queen
it's a
Bey.
two-part. It's
Ah.
a two-part question.
Oh, yeah.
Guys.
Ah.
Get your
Second part of the
Second.
question.
Could AI
partial
understand
credit
it?
so far. Can an AI figure it out?
Yes.
That's right. Eureka!
Eureka. Come on down.
Two parts.
Excellent answer. And you, sir, are a queen yourself.
Aww.
Oh, look at that. Look at him.
That's a princess, but it's okay. Walk him
guy's-
to his
he-
seat,
he asked-
Kevin.
he wanted me
Walk
to
him
bow.
to his seat. Walk him to
Walk,
his seat.
okay, I'll walk you to
Be
your
a
seat.
gentleman,
He's really getting into it.
Kevin.
You have sweaty palms, by the way. That's what
It's Salesforce. Do you guys work together? See a plant? Is
He nailed it.
We're working the same
He's
company.
got a tiara.
I knew it!
Yep.
Yes!
You did. You called it.
Eureka, where's my prize? Okay.
So yeah, this is actually a fun
My
fact. This is one of the cool unsupervised learning algorithms that came out in the last couple of years.
It's the other version of the queen.
The other queen. And a lot of people found that very surprising. You literally take a vector. What is a vector? It's just a list of numbers. It basically defines a point in a high-dimensional space. And if it was just like a three-dimensional space, you could say king is here, man is here, woman is here, and now you subtract all these points, and then you actually end up at another point, and it turns out that will be the vector of queen. And it just comes from what we call co-occurrence statistics. How often does a word appear with other words? And if it turns out that when you capture all these statistics, you know, queen might often appear next to beautiful and majestic, and maybe so does female, and maybe male and king appear with other words. Again, biases in data sets, totally a problem in word vectors too. But you know, when you subtract all the statistics from king that included, you know, I don't know, started a war, lots of other terrible things, and then you know, those co-occurrence statistics also happen a lot with the word man, and you subtract them, you add the co-occurrence statistics of woman, you actually turn out, you get the queen, because you didn't take out royalty when you subtracted the standard man statistics from the king
Behind
statistics.
every man is a woman. Yeah, got it.
Doesn't this all just get super thrown off though when like a movie is really popular, you know, and it may be about a queen, but it's got one of the main characters is a man, and so that man gets linked up with the woman stats, right?
There are a lot of issues with this. There's also the problem of ambiguous words. Bank. It can be the bank you sit on, could be the money bank, could be the sand bank, and this kind of algorithm could not figure that out, but other people, including myself, have then published follow-on papers on having multiple vectors for the same word and things like that.
Awesome. Last question.
All right, last questions. What more would it take for an AI to be an artificial general intelligence? Very loaded question.
AGI.
Okay, we already had an answer here. I see an
What is
hand up there.
artificial
Let's go up there.
general?
Yeah, you can do multiple things. No.
Okay.
I can't do
PhD
multiple
is in
things.
poetry, not computer science, but I'm going to guess that it would have to learn what it needs to learn.
That's deep.
Yeah, that's some deep learning.
Damn.
Right here.
Honestly, this one is a hard one. I
That's
think like
If
almost
that's
like a
not right, I
haiku
don't know
answer.
what it is. Yeah.
I actually
Paul
didn't think we would
Spring,
even make it
AI
this far
I don't know.
in the show.
Okay, we get
all
a
right.
tap out.
Another answer?
Let's collect a couple.
Maybe be able to match human capabilities in all dimensions of intelligence or pass some sort of test like the Turing test or something like that.
That's right, but that's sort of not like the ingredient, but the end result. That's sort of the definition of artificial
so what
general
would it
intelligence.
That's the end result.
Maybe if
We got
It's very subjective. There's like maybe together we'll
maybe
figure
if
it
the
out.
AI could figure out why the Kardashians are so popular, like then you could be
And then eradicate them.
general intelligence, right?
Let's see.
I was going to say, just a shadow in the back, consciousness.
Whoa.
What is it?
Consciousness.
Consciousness.
Lots of loaded stuff here.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can't hurt. Maybe could.
Okay, we'll take some
let's
more.
do two more.
Oh.
And then
Take some more
If-
answers.
If the artificial intelligence was in the elevator and it
Morality.
said, I farted.
Uh-huh.
That's a pretty
Okay.
smell.
Humility or not given an F. That's probably
Yeah.
that was- another answer?
Let's do one or two more. Yeah.
Morality,
Oh, that's a good one.
ethics.
We don't have that.
Yep.
Is it like something about God? Are you thinking about God? Are you talking about like
Extra set of batteries? Is it that
Usually
simple?
working.
magic?
Daily
Maybe
double.
parallel processing rather than just serially.
We have a lot of that, but more could certainly help. Humans actually surprisingly not parallel in many ways. Like we can't listen to language and read at the same time, whereas AI might be eventually able to do that. But our visual cortex actually has a lot of parallel processing, and GPUs usually have like 5,000 cores that can in parallel do large matrix
It's a lot of
multiplications.
parallel
She's got
processing.
another.
All
She
right.
got
Right.
another question.
I guess I meant more of how like neurons actually have possibly hundreds of inputs coming out, and then possibly hundreds of exports. Should I get output?
Inputs and outputs. Yeah.
Inputs and outputs.
Tariffs.
So
Tons
maybe
of tariffs.
something like that, where you actually do have a network and not just command by command.
That is true, but so do actually artificial neurons. They also have lots of inputs. and
All right,
outputs.
then I'm wrong.
Okay.
Sorry.
We can do
All right,
this.
another
Collective
answer?
intelligence
This is fun,
here.
If you're the only one who knows the answers, are you the artificial intelligence?
Watch him remove his skull cap, and
No.
you see the.
This guy knows it, but we're gonna go to him last because he already won one.
So I'll actually say there's two things. One is to teach it what is common sense, and the second one is creativity.
That's a good one. Those are all good ingredients too. This is a much more technical kind of.
Is there? Okay, you're looking for a more technical answer.
Well, let's pick one. Maybe pick one.
I think maybe you're the closest. Let's
All right,
give it to you.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, Eureka!
Eureka!
Yeah.
All right. We have another wonderful Eureka shirt, and because you have such an amazing brain, we're going to give you a little tiny stress ball brain. You can squeeze it yourself. All right, you're welcome.
Don't-
Round of
don't drop
applause. There you go. Hug it out.
Good answer.
All right.
Woo!
What do we have?
All right.
So I actually gave away the answer accidentally earlier today. This is my personal take, and it's less about.
This is Richard about 20 years ago, I believe.
That's right. Shits and giggles.
Shits and
It's a
giggles!
theme.
That's the meme.
Before we knew it. So
There's a timestamp.
basically, the main thing is we really need to have the right objective functions. We don't know what those are. What makes people want to read something? What makes them want to go into the world and explore? Some people think the part of the objective function is wanting to be able to change and be able to predict how the world changes based on my action. So that could be maybe a high-level objective function that could be helpful, but it certainly isn't enough. And we just don't have this. And it's a really interesting philosophical question, more so than a technical question, because we're very far away, again, from artificial general intelligence.
Yeah. This part doesn't sound dangerous at all, you know? Like, Yeah, humans want power, and we want to, subjugate the rest. Yeah.
Like the interesting thing is the human mind has sort of developed through evolution in very resource-constrained environments, right? We had to oftentimes fight for stuff, and nature is not very ethical, right? Humans developed ethics to suppress a lot of natural things that are going on. Yes, it evolved. And so what's interesting is AI doesn't have to evolve in resource-constrained environments, so it doesn't actually have to get, again, all philosophy and fun stuff towards the end of the night after some drinks, it's like this is not the actual research that we're doing.
All right, well, that kind of leads us to our bonus question for you, Richard.
Uh-oh.
Talking about resource. Well, let's say if the singularity occurred and the super intelligent AIs took over the planet, how could you convince them not to enslave you and harvest your organs? That's for you. Imagine it's a little more resource-constrained environment.
Don't give us any bullshit like that wouldn't happen.
Yeah, give us the real answer.
Give us the real answer.
I'll give you the real answer.
We know what you thought about this, obviously.
I'm going to try to make myself as cute as a cat
Oh,
and not as
interesting.
ugly as a cow.
Will you just grow your hair out really long to say you don't want to touch
growing out your
this?
hair and your tail?
That's right. So
Okay.
I'm cute.
It's too cute to enslave and harvest for organs.
That's right.
All
Too
right,
cute to
everyone's
kill.
taking notes here.
We're pretty good to cats,
All right, okay. That makes sense.
But not as nice to cows.
And pigs and sheep.
I'm not sure,
and
how
chicken,
how
yeah.
safe that makes me feel.
Fish.
Yeah.
What would you say is the biggest bottleneck right now to pushing this AI further in different ways?
It's collecting more interesting data sets, and then it's really thinking about multitask learning. That is, to me, the number one thing. Because when humans learn something, and then they learn a second task, we don't hit them over the head until they forget the first one, and we start from random to teach the next one. There's a lot of synergy, but there's also the ability to learn tasks that aren't related. I can learn how to ride a bike, and that does not interfere with my ability to speak English. But right now, the algorithms are all just ultra-focused on single tasks.
But potentially walking and transportation and how to analyze their environment, that all will play a huge part into
That's
learning
right.
how to
And so
ride a
when we
bike.
can do multitask, we can then also do...
Because that's obviously multi-level function going on, right?
Fun fact, so you're probably referring to Boston Dynamics, that to do Big Dog. There are lots of fun YouTube videos.
Are we familiar with Boston Dynamics?
On
Awesome.
Big Dog. And
Go
so
look them up if you're not.
actually, one of their main guys gave a talk at NIPS, which is one of the top AI conferences and machine learning conferences in the world. I think last year or the year before, and surprisingly, they use almost no AI in their company.
But they don't use any machine learning?
It's actually a lot of just not at all AI algorithms. Yeah. It's very
Not at all. That's a
surprising.
technical term.
Yeah.
Not at all AI.
It's like very like
I studied that
else,
myself.
Like if then else with actuators and like
AI.
pumps and stuff
Okay.
like that. It's surprising, yeah.
A lot of if and
What
else
is
statements.
the end goal? Like when you get this AI as far as you could possibly want it, like what is the end goal for it? Like do we all just have like constant orgasms all the time and it's like super fun
That
and
would
like
get old, wouldn't
just
it?
pleasure?
Would it?
Yeah.
I mean, I think we'd all give it a shot.
I think there's an interesting, to me, AI kind of, and again, it's philosophical, but it's also becoming more and more real. Humans are kind of tool-building animals, right? We build tools, and when we changed from hunters and gatherers to do agriculture, we made it more efficient to get food, and then fewer people had to constantly hunt and gather food, and we could do other stuff. And then the Industrial Revolution came about, and then fewer people had to work in the fields. Like 150 years ago or so, over 90+% of people worked in agriculture to make sure we had food. Now it's like 5 or so percent.
Yeah.
And if you ask somebody 150 years ago, like, oh, what if like 90% of you didn't have to work? They're like, well, that would be weird. Like they could, it's hard to think
or
about
ask
that.
people now, would you like to go to the farms? Nah.
Right. Nobody now is worried that we don't have don't have to work in the fields.
I have a quick question. Since you said that a lot of the AI gets their information from, or they're able to be AI because of all the data collected, when am I going to get paid for the data that I give to the internet? Like just wondering.
Oh, you haven't gotten your check yet?
No. not
Facebook
yet.
pays me all the time.
Y'all are mine in my mind, you know.
Facebook pays you because you get to use their service.
So
That's,
whenever you use a free service, you are the product.
Yeah.
I
There you go.
know.
So you would say that the
But in the
Owned.
future, could we, I don't know, strike a little deal or something?
So I agree. I think that's actually not a crazy idea.
Yeah,
And as you know,
That'd be great.
They know
more
how
and
many
more
cat
people use
videos I watch. Like,
yeah.
So quick thought. Wait, Jesse, hold on.
yeah, you go
so
ahead.
so you were just going on. Okay,
Yeah.
we went. Yeah, and
Um,
let's come back to that because self-actualization is a
Bless you.
big deal.
Are
How
you
do
on
we
the
become self-actualized as automation takes over into so many industries? What do we do every day?
Right.
Yeah. It's
So
money. Yep. Still involved.
So to finish that thought, like agriculture, industrial revolution, now digitization and automation, and AI is like in some ways another step in the evolution of human society in that we're automating more and more stuff. And when you just start with some of this technology, like the internet, the first time some TCP/IP packages were sent on the ARPANET between a couple of professors, and somebody said, "Oh, but what's the impact on jobs?" Nobody back then would have said, "Oh, well, in 30 years we're going to have a Twitter social media marketing manager position in a big company." Like it's just unfathomable how that really will affect all the different job markets. That being said, when the Industrial Revolution was not, revolutions are not fun. Revolutions are usually bloody, and it's up to political systems
The
to
bonus
make sure.
question.
Right. So you've thought a little bit about like universal basic income,
Exactly.
maybe decommodifying.
You have to
certain
have a much
things.
better social system,
Right.
and like maybe it's a conditional basic income. You actually like encourage people, and this is what Germany does already. You can get for many years unemployment benefits as long as you continue training, so that eventually you get better at stuff. So education and continued adult education, I think, will become more and more important. And if the political systems are good about redistributing the wealth and the automation benefits, in
Just like
some ways,
America.
like we
America.
wouldn't have to work for basic subsidians of like a shelter
Yep.
and housing and food and stuff like that because AI can automate all of those things.
All right. So that's the future. Can we
Thank
give it
you.
Richard, please?
Yeah.
Richard Socher.
Good job,
And
Richard.
for Jesse, Florentina, for you guys
Thank
coming
you.
out.
Thank
Thank
you
you
for
so
coming out.
much for coming out. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for Mark, our tech, for the evening.
Yes.
And thank you for Piano Fight for the space.
Our next show is July 25th. It's transhumanism, very related, merging humans with machines.
And this guy, Zoltan, is running for California governor in 2018. And guys, really quickly before you leave, so on your seats, you guys had little NASA solar glasses. You guys all see those, right? Okay, so there's an eclipse happening on August 21st, around 10:30 in the morning. We're gonna have like about a 70% eclipse here. So please never look at the sun without those, but on the day of, you can wear those and then look at the sun and you can actually see the eclipse happening. And please do review us on Yelp.
Find us on Yelp, on
and-
Facebook, EurekaComedy.com, and spread the word. We love you guys.
We do corporate events, so if this was fun for you guys here, please reach out at contact@EurekaComedy.com. We'll gladly bring the show on the road. Reach out.
Right, thank you. All right, have a great night, everybody. Thanks, guys.